On June 17, 1930, the United States committed economic suicide. It didn't happen with a bomb or a stock market crash. It happened with the stroke of a pen. President Herbert Hoover, ignoring the desperate pleas of over 1,000 economists, signed the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. The goal was simple and patriotic: protect American jobs. The government raised taxes on over 20,000 imported goods. They thought they were building a fortress around the American economy, but they were actually building a prison. Within months, the global trade system shattered. Other nations, Canada, Europe, Britain, immediately retaliated with their own tariffs. American exports plunged by 61%. Farmers who supported the bill suddenly found they had nobody to sell their wheat and corn to. The Great Recession of 1929 turned into the Great Depression of the 1930s. Unemployment tripled, banks failed, the world burned. Fast forward to 2025. We are standing on the exact same precipice. Donald Trump has proposed a universal baseline tariff of 10% to 20% on all foreign goods, and a crushing 60% tariff on goods from China. The rhetoric is the same. America first. Protect our industry. But the economic reality is a mathematical trap. We are about to spark the biggest economic reset since 1929. But this time, we have a problem that Herbert Hoover didn't have. We have $38 trillion in debt. This combination, protectionism plus insolvency, is the recipe for a hyperinflationary depression. And just like in 1930, the public is cheering for the very policy that will destroy their savings. You need to understand the mechanism of the tariff shock before it hits your wallet in 2026. Because when this wave crashes, it won't just wash away cheap goods. It will wash away the middle class. Part 2, the 20% tax trap. 5-10-hour narrator. Let's strip away the politics and look at the raw math of a tariff. A tariff is not paid by China. It is not paid by Mexico. It is a tax paid by the importer, who then passes it directly to you, the consumer. If Walmart buys a toaster from China for $10 and Trump adds a 60% tariff, Walmart now pays $16 to get that toaster through customs. Do you think Walmart eats that cost? No. They mark it up. That toaster is now $25 on the shelf. Now multiply that by every single item in your house. Your phone, your clothes, your car parts, your furniture. Experts estimate a universal tariff would cost the average American household $2,600 to $4,000 a year. That is a massive tax hike disguised as patriotic trade policy. But the direct cost is just the tip of the iceberg. The real danger is the supply shock. American manufacturing relies on foreign parts. We don't make everything here anymore. We assemble things here using parts from everywhere else. If you put a 20% tax on imported steel and aluminum, Ford and GM have to raise the price of their cars. Boeing has to raise the price of its planes. Construction companies have to raise the price of building new homes. This creates cost-push inflation. It's the worst kind of inflation because, unlike demand-pull inflation, which happens when the economy is booming, cost-push inflation happens even when the economy is slowing down. It leads to stagflation, stagnant growth plus high inflation. It is the economic equivalent of cancer. And we haven't even talked about retaliation yet. When we slap tariffs on Europe and China, they don't just take it. They fight back. They will target America's weak spots, agriculture and tech. Suddenly, American farmers lose their biggest customers. Tech companies lose access to critical markets. Profits collapse, the stock market crashes, and tax revenues fall off a cliff. And this brings us to the $38 trillion. The U.S. national debt was tiny. We had a budget surplus. We could afford to make a mistake. In 2025, we are the biggest debtor nation in the history of the world. We are addicted to cheap goods and cheap money. If tariffs cause inflation to spike back up to 8% or 10%, the Federal Reserve cannot cut interest rates. They might even have to raise them. But here is the trap, the mathematical impossibility. With $38 trillion in debt, every 1% increase in interest rates adds $380 billion to the annual deficit. We are already paying $1 trillion a year in interest. If rates stay high to fight tariff inflation, interest payments will hit $2 trillion, then $3 trillion. The government will have to print more money just to pay the interest on the money it already printed. This creates a doom loop. Tariffs cause inflation. Inflation keeps rates high. High rates explode the deficit. The deficit requires more printing. Printing causes more inflation. It is a self-reinforcing cycle of currency destruction. And this is where the Great Reset comes in. Trump and his advisors aren't stupid. They know this. They know the debt is unpayable. So they are using tariffs as a tool, a weapon. They are trying to force a reshoring of industry before the dollar collapses. They want to bring the factories home, even if it crashes the consumption economy. They are willing to sacrifice your purchasing power to save the nation's industrial base. This is the hard reset. For the next 4 years, cash will be trash. Goods will be scarce. The economy will shift from financialization to production. But the transition period, the years 2026 to 2029, will be brutal for anyone holding paper assets. Stocks that rely on global supply chains, like Apple and Nike, will get crushed. Bonds will be incinerated by inflation. So what do you buy? How do you survive the tariff shock? You have to invest in the things that the tariffs are trying to protect. And the things that cannot be printed? The tariff shock will destroy the old economy of cheap imports and global supply chains. But it will simultaneously birth a new economy. An economy built on production, not consumption. If you want to survive the next 4 years, you cannot invest like it's 2019. You have to position your capital in the path of the government's fire hose. Here are the 4 asset classes that historically explode during a protectionist inflationary cycle. Asset class number 1, domestic industrials. Think about the math. If the U.S. government puts a 25% tariff on foreign steel, American steel companies can instantly raise their prices by 24% and still be the cheapest option. Their profit margins triple overnight without them selling a single extra ton. This applies to aluminum, defense contractors, semiconductor foundries built on U.S. soil. The government is essentially forcing money out of foreign companies and handing it to domestic ones. You want to own the companies that Uncle Sam is protecting? Asset class number 2, American energy. You cannot reindustrialize America without massive amounts of power. Factories are hungry. AI data centers are hungry. The green energy transition will take a back seat to energy security. Trump's policy is drill, baby, drill. This means deregulation for oil, natural gas, and nuclear. Oil is the master commodity. When inflation rises, oil rises. It is the ultimate hedge against a falling dollar. Asset class number 3, hard money. Remember, the cost of tariffs is inflation. The government will print money to subsidize the pain. This debases the currency. You need an asset that cannot be printed. Gold is the risk-off insurance. Central banks are buying it at record rates because they know the paper system is fracturing. Bitcoin is the risk-on racehorse. In a world of financial repression, where the government tries to control capital flows, Bitcoin is the only asset that can teleport across borders instantly. The Trump administration has signaled a pro-crypto stance. If the U.S. government starts buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, the price will detect asset class number 4. And this is the most controversial one, fixed-rate debt. Specifically, a 30-year mortgage on a productive asset. Most people think debt is bad. But in a high-inflation environment, fixed-rate debt is a wealth transfer machine. Here's the math. Imagine you borrow $500,000 to buy a house today. The tariff shock hits in 2026. Inflation spikes to 10% or 15%. Your wages eventually rise to match inflation, the wage price spiral. The price of the house doubles in nominal terms. But your debt stays fixed at $500,000. You are paying back the bank with dollars that are worth half as much as the ones you borrowed. You are effectively shorting the dollar. This is how the middle class survived the 1970s. They bought homes with fixed debt and let inflation wipe out the real value of the mortgage. But there is a danger. You must be able to service the monthly payment. If you lose your job in the chaos, the bank takes the house. So this strategy is only for those with secure cash flow. Part 6. The conclusion. 25 hours. Narrator. The tariff shock of 2026 is not a possibility. It is a policy promise. The mechanism is locked in. The debt is too high to be paid. The only way out is a reset. For the unprepared, this will feel like a disaster. Their savings will lose purchasing power. Their imported goods will double in price. The standard of living will fall. But for those who see the pattern, for those who understand that history is repeating the 1930 and 1970 cycles simultaneously, this is an opportunity. It is a chance to move your wealth from the paper economy to the real economy, from the assets that are dying to the assets that are being reborn. The warning signs are flashing. The timeline is set. The reset begins in 2026. Will you be the victim of the tariff shock, or will you ride the wave? The choice is yours.